Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Turning down the sound a little bit here on the music to just this thing started here. I hope everyone's Saturday is awesome so far. I'm going to go ahead and turn this down a little bit myself as well, I think. Perfect. All right, well, it's Saturday morning. I hope you're doing fantastic. We're going to get back into the things today, mlops.net, right? And really have some fun today. I'm really excited about this session today because I think we're going to break some new ground. We're going to learn some new things foremost, and we'll do it together, which is kind of why I'm doing this as well. So, we're going to play around with Docker today and images and containers and look at containerized model deployment, which is kind of what our theme was last week. And I'll state directly that I am not an expert in Docker. I know the basics, and I know how to build an image and do things from Visual Studio. But I think today we'll need to take that a bit further and really do some custom stuff here. So that should be fun. I think we'll learn together and kind of see where that will take us as well, which is not a bad thing. But yeah, what else is new here today? What were the things I wanted to talk about? Last week, I started working on .NET new templates for ML.NET because that was something that we really needed to support containerized deployments. And for anyone who's followed along with the stream and followed along on the repo, you may have noticed that I created a new repo last week to sort that in, because we realized there will be an alternative and opportunity here to support other parts of the ML.NET community. So I created this ML.NET templates repo that has a NuGet package now, which contains 3 templates right now. Modeled training, so you can do like a training one. We have one that contains mlops.net embedded, and then we have one that we will use for our work today, which is the ML.NET Web Embedded. So why is that important? Well, what we want to do when we deploy a model to a container, right, is to auto-generate some kind of API that we can embed the model in. And we want to be able to copy over the model and copy over all the inputs and outputs, and then just kind of build an image, push it to a registry, and eventually deploy it to a cluster, maybe Azure Kubernetes Service or EKS in AWS or something like that, right? But we can only really do that if we also have a way to auto-generate that code. So I think .NET New Templates is a great way of doing that, and again, thank you, Sean and Killeen, for that suggestion, which I think is super helpful. So I wanted to look at how this template looks like before we get started too much today, just so that everyone has a feeling of what it's doing and why we want it. So we can open up a PowerShell or a Windows terminal client here, like the following, to understand as well what's going on here. So for example, what we can do here, just a random folder, right, is we can type .NET new, zoom in a bit, and we can type something like list, and it's going to choose dots here. It's going to give us all the installed templates currently installed. And let me get the music back up again now. There we go, hopefully that is fine. Let me know if it's too loud, and we'll turn down the music a bit. But I kind of like to wake up this morning. It's very rainy here in DC, so I need some stimulation. Alright, so we can see here we have all these templates here, right? And if you're familiar with this before, you can type .NET new console, right? And it will create a console application for you. Morning, Brett. Good to have you on the stream. How's the music? Is it too loud? Is it good? Can you still hear me? I tested it with recordings first, but those recordings may be inaccurate, so I'm not so sure about that actually. Hopefully it's okay. I'll turn it down otherwise. So what we can do here is we can go to the NuGet package for this. Perfect. And we can install these templates by just copying this phrase right here and say .NET new install and then the template, right? And what it's going to do is going to install .NET new templates for us here. And if we do this now and list this, we'll see that we have a couple of new templates here that we didn't have before. And these are these 3 right here. So we have 2 training ones and we have 1 for deployments. And I call it embedded because it's going to be a Docker container where the model is going to be contained in the container, right? So let's look at one of these, right? So let's look at creating an application for this. I'll make a new one here, just because I think I get stuck in the other one. So for example, if we do .NET new here, and call it MLNet Web Embedded, and hit that enter here, it's going to kick off and create a project for us, and it's going to restore it directly. And if you open up something like code here, let's see, it's going to show us how it looks like. So what this is just a simple ASP.NET Core application, right? Things that you're pretty used to already, and has a startup and has a program. But in the startup here, you see that we are registering our prediction engine pool here with the model.zip name. And you will see here that we also have things like controllers. So we have a prediction controller, which takes an input and returns an output, and calls predict here on the stuff here, which is great. So we can do this. There we go. They will zoom in, and we know we have a schema here, but the schema is empty because we don't know what the model schema is going to be like. And finally, we also have a Docker file here that is going to build this for us. So when we run this Docker file, what it's going to do is it's going to copy over this project, and it's going to restore it, it's going to publish it to make sure we have the right release and bin files here. And it's going to provide an entry point here for a web API. And it's going to run this in Kestrel, I believe. So that's all good. So if we run Docker build now, we're going to get the Docker image, we can run it. It will fail when we call the prediction engine because the schema is empty and we have no model.zip. But it's a fantastic starting point for us if we want to embed a model, because all we need to do from mlops.net is to call this CLI method and create this template, and then we want to copy over the model that the client has generated, so whoever uses the library, and also copy over physical files for the model input and model output, and then call build and publish it and everything else. And like that we have a very easy way to reuse this. Another thing to mention here as well is that in the project here we have defined our version of ml.net, and as we go forward we want to be able to specialize this, right? So maybe some clients want a lower version or a higher version depending on what they are working for them. So what we can do actually here is we can actually, I'm not going to do it right now, but what we can do is mlnet version, and you can specify that here like an override. So we can either from the library here now specify an override, so we can actually set the version that we want, which is going to be very useful I think going forward. Alright, so that's .NET new templates, and that's how those work, and let's see how we can use them today. And what I want to focus on today is this one here. We definitely need this one to do this one, but we can start by at least looking at this one to get something done here. So we want to be able to generate a Docker image based on this template, and we want to be able to build it from the solution. So I cheated a bit yesterday, so I started looking at this. So I have a starting template because I was just curious how this is going to work, because I, again, is very new to this. So I'm going to show you what I've done together, and we can see if that makes sense. So this in itself is agnostic of any cloud providers or where we'll run it. So it makes sense that this functionality is consistently used in the mlops.net library, I think, because that's where it belongs. So what I created was a Docker folder here to hold anything Docker related. And this is the lower level stuff, right? We have to still figure out how to pipe that up to a method that we can expose to a user. But it's a good starting point. And in here, I created two classes here. The main entry point here, that I think we still need to think about a bit, but it's a starting point, is this Docker image builder. And I'm not sure why it's not included in source control, but that's okay. I'll look at that later. But what this does here, and what it's going to do, because it's not done yet, and we'll do it together, is it will build an image. and we also have a method for pushing the image. So what are we doing here? Well, a couple of things we need to do, right? When we run this on anyone's client, we need to install the template package first. And that was exactly what I did in the beginning, right? When I called this one right here, .NET new install templates, that's installing that NuGet package that's already up there so we can use it. So we need to do that here. And then we need to install, create a template project. And that was when we wrote .NET new MLNet web embedded, right? So then we actually execute that. And then finally what we want to do is create a Docker build, or run Docker build here. So what I've done here is I've delegated that to a CLI executor here, so we can keep that behind bars, if you will. So it's not so in our face. Let me do this a little bit loud for me. So that's going to be kept by itself here, which is great. So we don't need to worry too much about that. Let's see. But if you look at how that's done here, we have this class right now that is contained for all the CLI stuff here. And I'm using something called CLI wrap, which is a NuGet package out there that I used before for just playing around and stuff. And it's just pretty good actually. It's I can highly recommend it. It's a NuGet package that you can download, and it will wrap around. So you can go to the NuGet package here. It will wrap around different types of commands here. So for example, we can wrap around Git here. So say, okay, I want to execute a Git command. These are my arguments that I want to do. And you can just kind of push them out and execute them. And you can do kind of lots of stuff here. And for us it's good, because what we want to do here is we want to execute .NET new commands, so .NET commands, and we also want to execute Docker commands. So we see here that something we want to do here is, and I'm just going to actually take away this one because it's kind of pointless. I think it's easier to read like this. We want to execute .NET command here to install the template package. So we have .NET new and then install. This is the library name, and then we have a package version here we can update right here. And likewise here, we can uninstall it by .NET new uninstall, and then a template here. This can be useful if you want to clean up things, for example, by any reason. And then, of course, we can do the template project here, so .NET, and then new, and then install the template here, and that's going to be the one we have decided here. And we will force that, and we'll put it into an image directory, so we have it separated from the bin folders. So for example, when I run this, let's look at that, it will be in its own kind of folder here. And I will run it together with you, so I'm going to try to show you right now how far I've gotten, and then we can build from that together, because there's definitely things that we need to do here. And then finally, right, we want to do is to run a Docker command here. So Docker build, and we're going to call this something, so we get the tag name. And we're going to define where the Docker file is in the project. And then there's more work here, Docker push, but that's all good. Does it sound good so far? Any questions, any thoughts? Anyone on the stream that have another thought they want to explore? Please let me know in that case. Alright. Just dump questions in the chat otherwise. So what I did yesterday was I created some simple tests for this so we can actually run it as well. Sounds good, awesome. And we have something called CLI executed tests here. And I wanted to be able to run this from the tool without doing any more things. So this unit test, all it's doing is it's uninstalling the template package, it's installing it, and then it's creating a template project. And then we want to make sure that we actually have the file created. So let's run this test and see what happens here. So we have this ML. Okay, see. What is it using here? I think I need to close VS Code here. Okay, good. So we see here we have this bin folder in our test project. And we should probably move this integration test, by the way. But if we run this test, put a breakpoint here, and run through this. We kind of look at what it's doing and make sure it actually works. And we'll do some refactors after that. And apparently I have some build errors here. So it's going to install it actually for us. That's the kind of the idea at least. Let's see, 1 second here. What have I done? Oh yeah, I did this. Okay, I need to fix this later, but that's fine. Build image. One second, Brett. Make sure we get this working for now. So, good question. So what it will do is it's going to install the template package for us, and it's going to do all these things for us. And I created custom exceptions here for us to understand what's going on here. I think we need to wrap this in try-cast because it wasn't working as expected. But what I wanted to do here is say, okay, install this template package, and if you don't have, come on, go away. If you don't have permissions to do that or something else going on, then go ahead and throw an exception of that. And I created custom exceptions up here for each of these, so we can easily read what's going on here. Saying, okay, template installation exception. So if you have any issues with template installation, creation, Docker push, Docker build. So we'll see kind of what's going on and what's breaking here, and that's good. But yeah, in general, what we want to do is install everything from scratch here. So install the template, run the template, and run Docker build. And through this process, anything can fail, of course. And if it does, then we will make sure we see that. Okay, let's walk through this one and see how this is going to work, just to make sure that things are actually working as expected. Wow, come on. Be nice to me. Okay. Finally no errors. Alright. So what we want to see here is we want to put a breakpoint here, and when it uninstalls the templates, we can list all at once. So let's see. Okay, it's uninstalling it right now. Okay, uninstalled. If I open Windows Terminal now, I'll do clear here. Sorry, let me remove all this stuff here. Okay. So what we're going to do here is going to be clear and .NET new list, right? Okay, why is it not doing anything? Interesting. It's like it doesn't want to do that. Let me open a command prompt. Okay, perfect. So you see here, if we make this a bit bigger, we see we don't have any ML.NET templates here, right? Because we have uninstalled them. So this is a clean slate. This is like a realistic slate. If someone comes in and does this. Okay, good. So now we're going to install the templates. So we kick off the command to install them. And that takes a little bit. There you go. And if we run this again, we now see we have these 3 templates here that was part of this template package. So these were part of the NuGet package that we just installed here. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to run this one right here, and hopefully it's going to do is create a new project for us. So we see here we have this bin folder now, with things executing in. And there's no image folder here, okay? So what we want to happen is to create an image folder and create a project within that image folder. So if you go into this one, what it's going to do here is going to create .NET new template name, force, and then output that into the image directory right here. So let's see if that does it. That's happening here. So let's execute that command. Takes a second or so, but not too long. Pretty quick actually, I think. Pretty quicker than I thought it would be. And if we go in here, we have an image directory now, and we have this solution right here. So it worked, right? We are actually creating things. We're creating an ASP.NET Core application from scratch here, using a template. We have a Docker file here. We got a folder for schema. We got a controller for the predictions. Everything here. So given this, what we need to do here is be able to copy over the schemas that the client is going to use here into this folder, overwrite these ones, and we want to copy over model.zip into this location right here before we run docker build, because this one here has a copy always for something called model.zip in its project file here. So as long as we have model.zip in this folder, it's going to copy that over to the bin folder and then include that into the container itself. So it's a little nifty idea of getting this to work, separated so we can actually change them independently for security reasons or updates, but still making it pretty modular. So I'm pretty happy with this solution so far, and I'm happy we're going to have a unit test to prove this. So that's all good. So what are we going to do? What are things that are remaining here that I haven't done yet? Well, first of all, this needs to be wrapped in try catches because this was not working yesterday. Exit code wasn't really working. And then what we need to do as well here is to figure out how to push this to a container registry. We also need to be able to have another extension to provide the container registry credentials. I don't know how many on the stream today has worked with Docker registries and are familiar with those, understand like how you actually push things to them and such things like that. Are you pretty comfortable with those things? For one, I'm not too comfortable with it, so it's going to be a great exercise to learn as well. But one thing we have to do as well is to do like a Docker login. So what we want to support here, and open Notepad, because I'm a Notepad freak. What we want to support, yeah, I've never done it. I'm in almost the same boat as you are, Brett. Okay, this is way too small. There we go, look at that. So we have something called AWS EKS, which is the container registry for AWS. We have Azure Container Registry, which is the Azure equivalent. And then of course we have Docker Hub. So these are ways we can store our images. And once we have an image, the way it works is that you have an image repository. So you build an image, and you can do this locally if you wanted to, like we're going to do. We push this to a registry, which is either of the ones above, right? Either of these three. And then from the registry, which is going to be like a model repository of some sort, we're going to deploy it to cluster. And this is going to be different kinds here. So if registries are these, right? Clusters, or whatever you want to call them, can be like Azure Kubernetes service, for example, and the AWS equivalent, which I don't actually know right now. So maybe it's called EKR, I don't know. Don't quote me on the AWS one. So in general, this is going to be a separate ticket to deploy it, and we're kind of doing this right now, but I also want to be able to push it up here to that specific one. And to do that, some of these are open, so you can kind of push them by yourself without any logging, and some of them need to log in. But the cool thing is they're all very similar on login, so you can actually execute like Docker, I think Docker login, and then password, so password here, and then user, and user here, and then I think it's an endpoint, and it's going to be like my registry.azure.io or something like that, and the similar for AWS or Docker Hub. So the good thing is that it's very similar in the syntax we need to do this, and what we need to kind of keep here is we need a username, we need a password, and we need the endpoint, which is the registry name here, for being able to push things here. So a lot of talking here, but I guess what I'm trying to say here is we need another extension method for MLOps.NET to be able to capture these things. So if you want to do this, you should be able to do that with this. So before we do that, let's go ahead and refactor some of these methods here, and then we'll get into that specific one here. So what I want to do here is I want to wrap all this into a try catch. And we're going to catch everything here. And what we'll do is we're going to throw I think we can embed an exception here, right? see. And what we'll do here is we'll just add another one here, I think. Okay, there we go. So we'll do is have another constructor here. Okay. Wow, this is some heavy music. I think we're gonna change this music. Let's do some chill music here. There we go. A bit better, I think. Alright, so I was playing around with this yesterday and it didn't really want to work as I wanted it to work when it comes to this. I was thought we can like do exit code, but it was like throwing exceptions left and right, so I think this is going to be a better way of doing this per se. We could also wait for this, I guess. Let's go ahead and change this right now. Okay. So we'll do this one. And this is just to be able to see the exceptions better, more easily. So we don't have to just read the message, we actually get just the name of the exception, and it will be easier for us to understand what's actually going on here and what's failing. And if you want the short command for wrapping it in a try catch is Control KS, and after that you get a menu up and you can type try, and then from there you can go straight in there, which is kind of nice. It's a quick way of doing it. Okay. Okay. I'm not sure why this is oh, it's because that one's different. Okay. Okay, and then we're gonna do this one and change it up as well. Custom exception here to get some structure on things. And again, if you have any questions throughout this, just kind of post them. I'm gonna start doing some work now and get into the nitty-gritty things here, so we'll get some traction. But it definitely doesn't hurt to just throw in the questions or whatever you want to do. How's everyone's day been, or everyone's week, I guess, been so far? I had a really fun week personally. Been speaking at some events and just really enjoying being part of the community this week. It's been great. If those who didn't see the community stand-up on Wednesday, I think, definitely check that out. I think Bree and Reese really did some awesome stuff there hosting that event. Okay. So we'll see. That's good, that's good, that's good. And the last one here that we're gonna do is this one. And then after that we'll continue. Docker push exception. Okay. Wow, that's great, Bet. I'm happy to hear that your talk went well. That's great. So how's the adoption of ML.NET going at your organization? Are they liking what you're seeing? Do you want to see anything else? Are they worried about use cases? Nice. I'm sure they appreciate your involvement in kind of getting onto these new things as well. Hopefully you'll be able to find a good use case in your organization for ML.NET. I think that'd be awesome to see. I'm actually pretty excited because I have a meeting next week with an organization about ML.NET and MLOps. Hopefully that will go well and they'll be interested, but we'll see. Cool. All right. Cool. Okay, that's great. I'm glad you connected with Bree, and she loves help on these kind of things, and she has a lot of good thoughts about it, and if she doesn't have any good thoughts about it, then she has good people that can help you with it. So she's been very helpful for me as well, getting into this space. Alright, so we have this now. We can actually do this. Create a template project is good. And the tag here is going to be the registry path, experiment name, and then the model version. So that's my thought, at least right now, is that we will just do that. And I think actually what we do here is just have a string instead, because you don't need anything else. So if you don't want to fetch the whole experiment, you don't need to. Cool. Well, I'm glad you keep pushing it, at least. That's important to do that. Keep asking for things. The more you keep asking for things, the more chances are that they will be added in the library. That's great. Cool. Alright. So, as you may see here, a couple of things we are still need to do here, right? Is we are building our image here, but we still need to copy over the model, and we also need to copy over input and output. And this is not going to happen number 27 today, because we need to also figure out how to do that whole thing. So that's actually for anyone on the stream today, if you are interested. That's a ticket out there. However, we should be able to copy over the model, right? Because what I'm doing is I'm passing in the model to stream. So I'm envisioning that before this, in one of our catalogs, we'll download a model into stream, and then here we're actually going to copy it over into the actual image, which is going to be cool. So let's see how we can do this. I always forget how to do that. I'm going to rely on unit test, I think, or integration test to figure that out. I'm not sure why I always think that working with streams is like just verbose. So I think we have a download test here. And let's see if this one is used anywhere. So hopefully it has some tests on it. Yep, got some tests here. And got some tests over here. Download model rights. So we'll do here is using memory stream. Okay. And then that's going to be downloading to that one. Okay, perfect. So we can just do that. And I guess that's fine. That's not what I wanted to do. But what we want to do here is this a good way of doing it? I need to Google this. I always forget the best way of doing this. Write stream to disk. C#. Okay, stream writer, I think, something like that. Okay. I think this is what we want. Well, new file stream. Let's see. Okay. So the destination path here is going to be image and then model.zip, because we want to create it in that directory. So we can even make it a little bit more explicit here by saying directory here, name I think it's called, and let's see, let's create a new one here actually on that. Okay, directory name, model zip, and then what we need to do here as well, I guess, is file access right. That's all we need here. And something is missing here. New file stream. Okay, I think it's an overload, so file mode. Great. Okay, there we go. And then we should be able to do file stream dot write. Can we just pass in the model here? Is that possible? Or is it stream? Model. I'm sure there's a better way of doing this, but copy to file stream. And we'll do that sync one here. Okay. So that seems to be a thing. And the only thing I want to do here is I think we want to be able to mock this away, because this is going to be a very hard dependency otherwise for integration test. But didn't we have I know we have a IO abstraction here somewhere that we are using in the library, so I want to make sure we get that one somewhere here, because we're using this library right here. I just don't know where it is. Let's see. Easiest way to find it is to remove the dependency and then build and let the compiler find it for me. I think we want to make sure we can allow for unit tests here. Okay, that was not helpful. I thought we used it in this library. I'd be surprised if it's not there. There we go, file system. I see you. Okay, let's find this one. Okay, so here it is. So we can do a file system here if you want to, but that's not exactly what I needed. But let's Google if we have equivalent of file stream for system IO abstractions, because that would be a good way of mocking this away for testing. Let's see. I think this is exactly what we want here. Okay, yep. So we want to do that. So we want to pass in file system here, I think. Let's build that. Go back to this catalog. Brett, do you think it makes sense so far? Any thoughts in general on this work, or anyone else on the stream for that matter? I thought I put this back already. There's a lot of moving pieces here, and some things we definitely need to consider going forward. And I try to create tickets for them as well, because they are like, okay, well, you need to have the Docker daemon installed if this is going to work, and other things. So it'll be a bit tricky, I think, but I'm positive we can make this work by just trying to push forward, adding small stuff as we go along, and getting there. Oh no, it's fine. It's perfect. That's exactly what I want. Let's collaborate together. So I think the key here, I mean, we can definitely do the, I think system reflection is going to be kind of what we have to do for them, for the model input output, and like reflect over all the properties and then store that. But if you want to talk about that a bit, we can definitely talk about that a bit. I think we need to store that in a table, because I think that when you actually have access to the model input output, is going to be at a different time than when you want to deploy it. So you may have to have a table structure for it and then store it as a string, and then use that string during deployment for a run if needed. But it's going to be an interesting thing for sure. I'm mostly worried about the using the namespaces that they will need, that we won't be able to get all of those covered. But yeah, definitely think of that a bit, because that's going to be an interesting challenge. So file system see if this works. Nice, look at that. So now we can actually mock away this because we have this file system instead here, which is going to be great. And that's going to be fantastic actually. I'm really happy about that. And we don't necessarily need to even separate this out, but we can build our image like this. Let's go ahead and at least put it in a separate method here just to make it easier for us to read this code. But it can definitely live in this namespace, I think. Copy model. And okay. Copy model. Were you able to sell your house, by the way, Brett? Any success in the market? Okay, wait. Okay, good stuff. Alright, so later we have to do that and that. That's okay. I like that so far. So now, one of the things we need to do here is we don't necessarily have our credentials here. So I think that's something we need to figure out. Wow, that's great. Well, I can imagine that being a tough thing for sure. Well, it's great to be able to sell at least. We're starting in a month, but it's going to be a 2-month project to do all the kitchen itself. So it's going to be a long run, but it'll be great once we get started with it. We're waiting for the permits to go through, so should be fun. Alright. So I think what I want to do now, I'm trying to think here, it makes sense to create the extension method here to provide registry passwords, or if it makes sense to create the method here that I want to call build image on. I think that it may make sense to create the don't know. Let's actually look at the catalog here. So where would this go? It would probably go in the deployment catalog, I think. That's where it makes sense, right? So we have these deployment repos, create deployment targets, deploy model async here. So I would envision that we would have something like a method here maybe called public async. Maybe we can return deployment to, why not? And it'll be deploy model to container async or something like that. Just to make it a little bit different than the default one, which is file deployment. And we should make that clear. In general though, I think we need the same here, so we need the same kind of signature. We need a target, because it's going to be the namespace, I think. And we need models here and those kind of things here. To a URI. We can rename that method later if you wanted to. And here it's going to deploy model to cluster. So what do we need to do here? Well, definitely to get the experiment, because that's going to be a name. And we can make this more efficient by getting the experiment name in a separate method later if you wanted to. And then create deployment sync. What are we doing here? Okay, this is the actual call to create the deployment. And this is still going to be done. So here, what we'll do is we want to do build image, push image, deploy to cluster. And we will definitely have to build this out throughout the different streams here or on the side here. But eventually we're still going to want to create a deployment here. Deployment URI is going to come from the cluster right here. And that's going to be, I think, perfect like that, because we still want to have an idea of the path to the deployment here. I'll just create a new one like that for now. So here what we can do is we can pass in Docker image builder, and I wonder if we could rename that something else if we wanted to. Because right now it builds it and it pushes it, so it does more than just build, which is what I'm saying, I guess. Can also call it Docker image. I don't want to call it service because it's just too generic name. Docker image. It's also containers we're gonna handle here. So, any good names on the stream here? Docker context. Oh, let's throw in context there, I guess. It's almost as generic as service, but you know what? It's a much better name than image builder. I like that, Brett. We'll go with that for now. I think that's a good name. Okay, so let's create an interface here as well for Docker context. Inject that and see where it takes us. Naming is really hard, right? Context, and we're gonna do at least is the build image here. Yeah, I mean, this makes more sense at least. It makes more sense than the current one we have, I think. It's definitely a good name, and names should evolve, so if we think of another name, that's what we'll do, but this is definitely a better name than the current one. I like it. Okay. Builds a Docker image. And let's go back and create, I think there's one more method we need to include here as well. Docker push, right? Push, yep, this one. Pushes image to registry. Instance related to Docker. Okay, and then let's go ahead and add those to our class. Docker context. It's still an internal seal, but I still like to add these in case it helps for someone. By the way, it's pouring down here right now in DC. We have the Hurricane Laura's rain has come all the way up here now, which is kind of cool and kind of fun. But it's been raining the whole morning and yesterday. It's gonna keep raining for a bit, I think. Okay. So let's do that. Docker context. And let's create a field here. Okay, so now we have Docker context, and I thought I did that already. Yeah, no, it's just raining. It rains here a lot, so been a rainy summer. No wind, nothing like it was down in the south. It's already gone away, but it's all the rain that's tracking on the hurricane is here now. So it's just really rainy and really boring for a weekend. But great for streaming, because my wife is not objecting when I'm streaming when it's raining outside, so that's good. I'm working on this. Okay, so now we have the Docker context here, so we can replace this one with this Docker context, and we can say build image, right? And experiment name here. Pass in the register modeled. And pass in stream. Okay, so now we need to figure out the stream here, right? So we need to be able to download the model into the stream here. So we'll do using model, and we'll call this new memory stream. Exactly. We'll get to do some stuff using var. So you see, we can do that now, and what we can do here is hopefully... Ah, look at that, perfect. We had the model repo already here. So do I have a run ID on this one? I do, look at that, perfect. And we can just pass in the model here. So what's gonna happen here is we're going to kind of start combining our stuff that we've been working on for a very long time here. And we're going to call this download model async, and it's going to download the model for this specific register model here into my memory stream. And based on that, then we can then pass in that one into this one, so we can build the image based on that one. So right, it's going to copy that over, and we'll test that in a bit as well. And this is going to be a great test actually for like more long-term tests here. We'll definitely want to add a test on this one to see the whole flow going through, because this is going to be an interesting one. Okay, so we have that, build the image, and then what we can do here is await this Docker context. Skip this, honestly, I don't really care about this anymore. Push. Again, experiment name here. And we'll go to the register model. And the only reason why I'm putting these in here is because that's going to be the name of that thing we want to push here. Perfect. So that's actually more or less what we need to do to get something functional here. Now the only thing that we're missing here, right, is where it's going to push it. We haven't really defined that because we don't have a registry here. So we need some way of defining a registry, and that's going to be in the context here I want it, right? So we have this registry path here, but I think we'll need more than that to be injected into this one to fully function. And if we build this, I think we can have some build errors because we haven't defined things like Docker context, you know, where it's coming from. So we'll need to do that. So we'll go ahead and create an extension method here and see how that goes, right? So you see the deployment catalog is missing the entry point here. So let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and create an extension method for this, and we can just copy this one, but I think we actually may have one already. Yeah, we already have an mlos build extension here in the main library for local file repository. So what we want to do here is we want to create a new extension method here, builder, and it's going to be use, I thought we can call it use container registry, which is like one you can put if you, okay, I want to use containers, so we'll have to use a container registry here. And things we need here is username, and we'll need name, and we'll need a password of some sort, right? Because username is going to be the registry, I think, and the password is going to be the password. So let's look at an example here. Let's look at Azure container registry. Let's see how we will push that to, for example, Azure. What are the things we will be doing here? Okay, hopefully this is good docs here. Get started, create, push and pull. Okay, so for example, when you do that, we can log in using this. So we can use Docker login to log in, right? So this is what I want us to do here. And the login here is going to be the password, it's going to be the username. And we also need an endpoint, I think. Okay. I want to see if there's a... Do we need to do that for Docker, or is it already figured it out for us? I think we still need to do that. I was trying to figure out if we need an endpoint as well to be passed in there, which I think we need to do. Push to Docker. Because I know there's a couple of things we need here. So for example, if we do Docker hub, I don't know if we actually need to do any endpoints, because you just can pass in the username here. So this is how we would push it to registry, right? Docker push, and then we would have the username and then the tag here for the specific one here. So you see we've tagged this image with this specific one here. It still doesn't really help me with the login here. I think that we don't necessarily need that, honestly. Still trying to figure this out. So this is how you push it to Azure Container Registry, because this is going to be the registry name here. But I feel like that's not what I'm looking for here. I'm looking for this login here. I just don't think it's that easy. Is it always going to be the registry name here? That's what I'm wondering. Let's see. I want to check one thing here. Well, registry name. How is it working on AWS? So AWS image repository login. So it's called ECR, I guess, container registry. And here you would do username, AWS, password, and then you would do the registry, I guess, here. And then how you do the rest here. Okay, so it will still be this registry name. So I think we need both. The registry name is going to be always going to be the same thing here. Okay, I think we'll need all three for some reason. And let's do that for now, and then if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's okay. So we'll need like a string registry name here. Yeah, I think I was looking at the same one. But let me see. Exactly. I think this I think is good. I'm wondering just because like for Azure and AWS it makes a lot of sense. So like this is going to be this right here is kind of your registry name. But if you look at Docker, for example, like my Docker hub is like a slotte as my registry name, and I don't think I really have any. That's also my username, I think. It's just a little bit weird, I think, Docker hub, how that's going to work, but I think we'll figure that out once we get this working. Okay. So let's go ahead and create a method here so we can save this. So we'll create a method here for MLOps builder. Use Docker context, right? We'll figure it out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And the worst thing is we'll just do it again. It's the best part of it being our solution, right? We own it, we can do what we want with it. Alright, so here what we're going to do is we'll create the Docker context as a property. And call this field, and we'll return ourselves here. Return this, and then what we'll do is here we'll create a new Docker context, and this will be a new CLI executor right here. We'll create some other stuff here, so we'll need the same kind of credentials here. And I wonder if you can pass me in a smarter way than all of this stuff like this. I will just say, let's go ahead and add a new method here, Docker. Let's add a new settings class here just to make it a little bit cleaner. Settings. We'll call this Docker settings. This can be, let's see, string, registry name. Okay. Just to give it a little bit more separation, we'll go back here. We'll say settings, Docker settings. And this will be registry name. Alright, so perfect. And here, instead of just passing in a string here, we'll do Docker settings. And just because this is the only, I guess, like constant thing, I'll put it at the end just to make that a bit easier. I'll take this away, take this away. Go ahead and initialize a field for this one here. And we can actually, let's go ahead and also put a directory name there, because that's kind of something we can do real quick here. So we can use that elsewhere. What we'll do is string directory name, and it'll be get, and it'll be image. Actually, we can just do this. I think we can do that, we'll see. Okay, take that away a bit. So like that, we have one less constant here. So now we need to figure this out. So we'll do Docker settings, registry name, right? That's going to be what this is going to be. We pass that in. And here we'll do directory name for here. And we'll do the same thing here. We're actually going to save this variable here. So in case we change that by any reason, it's going to be in a separate contained place here. So we'll see model name. And it's going to be what we want it to be. Just a little cleaner, so if we actually use it for more than one place, we can do that in an easy way. Okay, perfect. This is getting better and better, guys. Alright, so back to the business here. So we had Docker context, and I think we also want to pass this in here, because we have places where we use that path, I think. Yeah, directory name is here, so we'll pass that in here as well. Docker settings. We can remove this one and call this Docker settings. There's a lot of work on this ticket, guys. The more I'm like doing this, it's like, oh, it's gonna be a lot of work. But it's I think we're building it in the right way. It's gonna be modular. We have some thoughts here. We can definitely extend this pretty easily, which is good. I like that. Okay. And I think we could do this later as well. We could, yeah, why not? I guess we can put this in here as well. So like that, everything is contained into one settings file. Public. There we go. Perfect. At least we have one place to change this later, and it's going to be contained like that, and that's always nice. Because I know there's a couple of things I want to add to this settings class later, for example like the default MLNet version and those kind of things. But now when we have it in one place, it'll be easier. Alright, so Docker settings, it's going to be passed in here. Or settings, I guess it's called here. And then settings can be passed in here. And we also need a new file system passed in here. We mocked it away. And then this is going to be the builder, sorry, builder, MLOps, use. Oh, that's why I did it. That's why I did it. That's a specific one here. Oh, and I need to pass in the builder, of course. Makes sense. Okay. Nice. So I should be able to put that on there now. Use Docker context. And I'm trying to think of the specific here. I don't want this use Docker context to be exposed, if you will. So let's look at this one here. How have we done this previously? I think I can just make this one internal. And like that I can set it, but no one else can set it. I think that's good. Okay. Configures. Okay. Great. Let's build this one and see. I think we have some builders for sure, but I think this is a good, good start here. So now this one should properly build. It's good. We have some easy stuff here, but this is okay. So now what we can do here is set the Docker context here. I think. Didn't we have a Docker context here? Oh, it's gonna be passed in, of course. Right, Docker context. Okay, perfect. We'll add a little check here as well, making sure that we are adhering to the standards that we hold ourselves to. And let's see what is used, because we need to pass that in here as well. Okay. Great, so now that should build, and let's go ahead and add some proper checks here. So we're not very happy if we don't pass in proper passwords and everything there, so I think we should make that work. I think that's fine. Okay. I think what we could do is... No, I think that's good. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the build errors we have here. So we have these tests here, we need to move these somewhere else. And I'm going to have to think about, well, this one can still be built here, I think. Docker settings. And a new file system, right? So it's going to be a new file system. This is going to be Docker settings. And that's fine. But this one we need to move here. Because right now this is being kept in the wrong place. So I want us to move this one to integration tests, because this is going to test, you know, the actual file system. So let's go ahead and change this one up, copy it, and put it into integration tests here. Put it into a new folder called Docker, maybe. Okay. And this is going to be integration tests. Integration tests. Docker. Perfect. Let's build this one. I think there's things missing here, but that's okay. I think I have some kind of git ignore thing that is kind of ignoring some of these files here, which I'm worried about. You can see that we haven't actually added this one to here, so something is going on there. But that's... let's see if I change this to deployment, like, does it change anything? Nope, okay. Well, that's okay. So let's go ahead and add some tests here. We need to still change this one to Docker context. Right. And there's a couple of things we want to do now, and we can think about which order we want to do this in. We want to always have a test for this, so we need a better test for the whole the whole flow here. And I think that's probably what we want to spend time on right now, because I want to make sure it works, and then we can add unit tests for it later. But right now everything is kind of piped in, apart from the fact that we don't have the deployment set up, which is fine. We can do that later. We also don't have the files being copied over, but that can be a separate ticket, so that's good. But it will be cool to see if we can get this tested in some fashion. And I'm just wondering how it's going to be working on like a test in a pipeline right now, because you need some access to like a Docker registry for this to work. So let's see, is there like a container we can run? Docker registry as a container. Huh, okay. Maybe we can actually do it like this. So it's possible that we can do this, because what I'm asking right now is, should we, if we add a unit test for this, is there a way for us to actually run it in a CI pipeline as well? Maybe, maybe not. But it seems like there's a way of doing that. And well, regardless, I think it makes sense to add a test, right? And we can use mine at least locally for now, and then we'll figure out the rest from there, I think. So let's go ahead and add integration test here, and that we need. And right now we have a simple one for the CLI executor, but there's tons more we want to add here. So we want to add, in this case, deployment catalog test here. And I don't know if we want to add this same one, because that's going to be a lot. But we have this deployment catalog here, and it's creating, this is more testing the different aspects of our code. So if we want to add it in here, then we definitely want to make sure we can run it to container, because otherwise we'll break everything here if it doesn't work. So we have a deploy model here. This is using a local file repository. That's going to be a thing. Because what we need to do in that case is to update the setup of this one here, and I'm just wondering if that's kind of what we want to do or not. Because we can also create our separate tests and go from there in some ways. That would be another option as well. And not to run it, because we don't need to run it in every environment actually, so let's do that. And if we need to kind of combine them, we'll combine them, but that's at least something we want to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a Docker. Let's Google a little bit more first. I feel like this should be, isn't this an own image? Registry, okay. Okay, I guess this is just called registry actually, and we should be able to do that. Okay, that's fine. So it is called registry, and we can push this localhost. Okay. Interesting. Okay, it's gonna be called localhost 5000 as the port, I guess, and doesn't really have any password, I guess. That's the only thing though, is that we don't actually testing the password here. but I wonder if we can do that. Okay. Let's go ahead and add a test for this though. But what I will do... Oh, I'm so indecisive right now. It's the worst. I will assume this works actually. Let's do this instead. Deployment catalog. Let's just do this. Create deployment. Should create deployment, right? So what we'll do here is add a new test. And we'll call it here. Test method. Public async task. Deploy model as container. Should deploy model to registry. For example. So what we're going to do here is arrange act search, and what we'll do is await SUT deployment and deploy model to container async, right? So that's what we want to do. And how do we get there? Well, we have a couple of deployments here before, right? So create register model here is just kind of doing everything for us, the experiments and everything else. So we should do that. But do we have any tests for experiment in general here? Doesn't seem like we have too many tests on this one here. We only have the... I guess it's gonna fetch experiment ID actually. We don't need to do that separately. That's nice. Okay. So we have a register model. Perfect. So let's get these two setup methods here and see where this takes us. Right. So in this case here, what we'll do is we'll say this is deployment target is production. And we want to deploy this register model, and we'll deploy it by us. Okay. So if we do that, we should get a deployment here. And I'm not sure exactly what I'm expecting here to happen. So we have to assert something we have to think about. But let's set up this test so we can run it, and then we'll figure out what to expect here, because I'm not sure how to assert that we have actually pushed an image to registry. We could probably do like a Docker push or something and pull to figure this out. And we have to do some cleanup as well probably to understand this. But before we do that, we have to set up things in our specific tests here. So we have this. The only issue here is that it's going to be run kind of as a separate test here. Well, we can tag them separately. Because they have to be run in GitHub container, that is a separate file. But I think we can tag these tests separately to make that occur. But then... Okay, I'm going to leave the implementation stuff later. I know my head is going like wild right now about like how it's going to work. But I don't think that's very helpful, so let's continue instead. So we have this initialization method here that we set up for Azure, right? And what we need to do here as well is we need to set up the repository here, container registry. And this needs to be set up in our keys here. So what we'll do is we'll start adding some new ones here. So it's going to be public static string, and this is going to be registry name. I think it's called localhost 5000. We're going to do another one here for username. I don't think we have one, so that's okay. Password. And we do need to do a login before we push this, by the way. So that's going to be something we have to do as well in the code, but that's okay. I'm not sure what the password is going to be, but that's okay. And where's the common one here? Data. Okay. And we'll call this container. Add this here. So we have registry name. And I just realized I was doing something wrong before. And that's okay. Username. Made that empty. Password. Right. Let's go back and fix whatever I was doing here. This is going to be localhost. I was doing too many things at the same time in my head there. So this is going to be container registry name. This is going to be container username, container password. And I'll start with Azure first, and then we'll figure out the rest later when it comes to AWS and stuff. But let's start with this first. So that means we can do configuration keys here. Registry name, configuration keys, username, and password. And of course we need to wrap this with configuration here, otherwise just be strings. Okay, great. So that should give us the registry information we need, and that should give us that whole thing there, which is good. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if we can kick off this container locally at least. It seems like that's something we want to do, so we want to do docker run here. And see if we can get this working locally. And open up your pseudocode for this. So I like the terminal it gives me. Not that it really matters too much. Go ahead and open new terminal and kick this off. It's going to pull that image locally, which makes sense. I'll open the Docker same time here. So here we go. So now we have a registry here, and that's running. So I should be able to communicate with that. So given that, let's go ahead and run that integration test and see what it's doing, because I think there will be things we need to fix here, but it's pretty cool. Hopefully it will give us something useful here that we can use. Alright, let's see. Okay, so we have this test hopefully that's been created for Azure in our integration test. Now we have this Docker test, and they're okay. And we have these other tests here hopefully. Sorry, Azure integration test. Okay, got one right here. Deployment catalog somewhere. Yep, right there. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and debug this one. And let's go back to it as well, so we make sure we have a breakpoint there. I think we do. Where did that go? Integration test, where did it go? There you are. Hopefully this is not... okay. Okay, so we need to start the Cosmos as well here. That's why this is failing. It's Cosmos emulator. Let's go ahead and kick that off. And while we do that, let's go ahead and put a breakpoint here. That's why I was failing. It's because we didn't have the Cosmos emulator open, which is our local Cosmos DB. Okay, let's see if we can get that running here. Okay, so we have Cosmos up and running. Perfect. Let's go ahead and run this again then. So deploy model as a container. It's going to do a lot of stuff here, so it's likely that it will fail somewhere. But hopefully it will be fairly successful and give us something that we can work with here. Come on. Alright, so ensure created. That should be a quick one. Cosmos is up and running, so. Okay, now it's happy. Alright, so create register models. Haven't done this in a while. Let's go back here instead. I don't really care about uploading the model. That it can do itself. Okay. Same thing. Okay. So now we're at the fun step here. Let's see what it's going to do here. So we're going to get the experiment that we should have created already. Yep. It's going to download the model that we uploaded to a stream here. So hopefully that's going to get that. Okay. We have a stream, and hopefully it's going to have values. Yep. Perfect. And now it's going to build the image, so let's go back in there. So it's going to install the template package, which is already installed, so it shouldn't do anything, but it's going to try to do it if it's there. And hopefully that will work, yep. Template project. Let's go and navigate here to make sure that it's actually doing what we want it to do. So we're doing it in Azure Integration Test folder here, right? Azure Integration Test. Bin, debug, core. Currently there's no image folder here, so we expect that to happen. So we'll do that. Give that a second. Alright, we have an image folder. Good stuff. So we have that. So now what we expect to happen is to get a model.zip file here. So that's what it's supposed to copy over. So it's downloaded the zip file from our model repository into memory. Now it's going to push it out, put it in the right place. Okay. And look at that, it works. Oh, it's lovely. I love this. Alright, we got a model zip here. Now you need a test for this as well, I think on low level. And now comes the docker build command. That may take a while or not, we'll see. So hopefully what's going to happen is that we're going to create a docker image here. And I ran this yesterday separate, I think. But what I hope to do is get a new image in this like side here, right? Local daemon with the name that we're gonna give it. And I can't remember the name here, but it's called localhost 5000. And it's gonna be, you know, localhost 5000 is a registry name, so we call it there. But Azure is gonna be different, of course. And then the slash here is gonna be the tag. So test is gonna be the test. And the reason why it's called test is because it's called the experiment name is test. And then it's going to tag it with the version that we have. So each time we deploy a new model as a container, it's going to tick that up again. So it's going to have a new name based on the version, but it should be easy to find. So let's see if this works. So it could hopefully... Okay, it doesn't look good. We'll see. Let's kind of continue here. Seems like it failed on the Docker build here. At least it's giving us a clear instructions what's happening here. Let's see. Unable to run Docker build for localhost 5000 data. Copy failed. Okay. So we have a copy issue here by some reason, but that's good. We have at least information about what's going on here. So it says it couldn't do the MLNet Web Embedded CS project. So I'm wondering if it's because it's running against a local daemon here or not, if that's the issue. Which would be unfortunate. Let's go ahead and run this ourselves and understand if this is working. So the cool thing here is that, you know, we can copy this here, and we can just run it. So we can go ahead and navigate into this specific folder. So let's go to C, cdc git tests, right? mlops.net. I got too many mlnet stuff. Okay, and go into test. Go into the specific Azure test here. Bin. Okay. So we should have an image here. Okay. So here's the folder in, right? So we can actually run this here, and we can see if it's going to give us the same issue or not. Okay. Actually, it should be running the one before because we have the image path here to Dockerfile. So you see that this is what we're getting as an output, so we can actually test this locally now. Send builder context to Docker daemon. Okay. So here's just taking those images from the start here. So let's go ahead and look at this file again. So if you open this up, let's see what's going on here. So we have our Docker file, we have our model zip here, perfect. And Docker file is going to copy things over, and if we look at the terminal again and see what it was doing, okay, gotta close this one, we don't really care about that one. So it's trying to send this to Docker daemon here, and it's failing on web embedded CS project. I can't find it. So is it not there, or are we missing something? It's obviously there, but it's looking in the wrong place. I'm not sure why that's the case. And it hasn't created one of those images, which is an issue. But let's connect to the registry here. Azure Docker Hub. Okay, that's not very helpful. Okay, so given I'm not a Docker expert here, this is going to be difficult to debug, I think. The question is if we should go ahead and try this without the local one and just my own one, see if it's the same issue or not, because I feel like this is probably an issue with the local registry we're doing. Let's go ahead and Google this first before we give up, because that's always what you do, right? Google things when you can't figure them out. And so who do we got on the stream so far? I think we got a couple people now on the stream tagging along here. Docker build. Okay. Okay. Docker build path. Yeah, I know, it's supposed to exist there, so I'm a little bit surprised that it's not. Cool. Good to have you back on the stream. I'll be streaming, I think, for maybe half an hour more or something like that. Trying to get this container registry working. It'd be kind of fun to get this one at least functioning. But something is off here. Okay, let's try this though. Let's see. So based on what I read there, let's see. That was not what I wanted to do. But based on this, we should be able to run this inside the image folder here. Let's see. Well, look at that. Okay. So there's something going on with the path to the image, the Docker file here that doesn't like apparently. This is really good information, by the way. I'm really happy to see this. So we seem to have built this container like that. Alright, so let's figure this out. So if I was in the actual folder, you see, I'm not sure if you noticed what I did there, but if you were in the actual folder here of the image here, yeah, it seems to be building just fine because you can find the Docker file. But it was calling the command from this path and referring to it in this one. It didn't really work as expected. So that's kind of interesting. Well, that's great. I'm glad you'll be able to have some physical outside activity. I'm still struggling to find something to do in my COVID hours, right? We're all trying to make the best of it. I'm glad you get to do something you enjoy, and your friend, I'm sure, is very happy as well. Okay. So we seem to be able to have to specify this in a different way. So it seems that we have to specify the full path if that's something we want to do here, which is not what we want to do here. We can also try to navigate into this folder before we do that. Apparently people like that. Docker folder with Docker ignore. Yeah, it's not a Docker ignore issue, but it's definitely an issue on like where we're executing this one, and that's is going to be a fun thing. We're so close. We're so close. I want to figure this out. So what we could do to fix this is to navigate in here. If you go to, let's see, where to go? Go to the Docker context here. When we do Docker run Docker build here, what we could do is, instead of executing it like this, you know, where we have the directory name here, Docker file, what we could do is navigate into this one. But the only thing with CLI wrap is that I can't do like CD stuff, I think. But we can try, I guess. But I think it's going to be a different way of doing that. Let's think about this a bit here. So it doesn't like that, which is not great. If I do, I can definitely try to go into that directory, but I want to make sure it's working on both Linux as well as Windows, so I don't want to be very specific here on how I'm going to navigate on bash script or in the command line, so I'm going to try to avoid that if possible. This should work, and I'm a little bit surprised it doesn't work. So you mean a dot in before, Brett? Are you saying you want to try something like this? Is that the idea? Sure, we can try. Definitely worth trying. It would be nice if we can just use that Docker command, because it's going to be agnostic of any environment we deploy it into that case, which is a lot easier than. Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. Stop. Even easier. You're right. Okay, let's try that. So we're in the right directory here, and actually, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and copy this one. Oh well, it's already doing it. Fine, let's keep going here. We're already here. So... Oh, we're getting the output. No, this is just me actually playing around. Let's see, it's doing something at least. It's taking longer than before. It's a good thing. I'm just gonna put one right here in case it's passes. Nope. Didn't like that. But let's try that. Let's try that ourselves here, just to make sure it's not actually working. And what we can do is we can go and use this Windows Terminal instead, so you can see what I'm doing, because I realize it's pretty small otherwise. And git and lots of nets. Go in here. Alright, so we got the image thing here, so let's go ahead and run this one. Okay, so the same issue here, but that's a good idea though. So I'm pretty sure, like, if we let's actually try it like let's try the explicit path here, because I think it has to do with the path. Not that I want to do this later, but let's see if this is working here. So if I do this, what happens then? Oh, okay. That's kind of good to know, at least. So it doesn't seem like it matters the fact that it's there. I think set working directory. I had the same issue before somewhere else. Docker. I know there's a way of doing this pretty easily. Okay, try that. So you want to do without the dot, just a slash like this. What did I do wrong now? Okay. But we could find it otherwise. Okay, so that almost worked, but not really. Oh, maybe it's like this actually. Let's see. Is it like this? I think we have something with a dot. So the context is the dot here, and I think that's the issue, is that the Docker file is found, but not the context here. I think that's the issue. I think we're getting closer now. So this is the Docker context. Well, we're learning about Docker here, right? Which is good. So we need to, that's probably where we are building things in. So we see this dot here, so the context, Docker files. Build comments. Okay. Okay. This should be a way of doing this. Image, Dockerfile image. So we have that already here, right? We have file, image, and then Dockerfile. So that's specifying the name of the Dockerfile, and that seems to be able to find the Dockerfile. It's just when it starts running it, the context is going to be the other directory, and we need to be in the directory where it's actually running. And that's kind of the issue here. Specify the path to build. Yeah, I did that. We can actually, well, didn't do it that. Oh, just image. You may have solved it, Brett. I did /image and /image and everything else, but this seems to maybe do it. Wow, Brett, you are a lifesaver. This is why I love streaming, because together we can solve problems that would take hours otherwise to figure out. I think you have solved it. Let's see. Okay, run Docker build. And you said you had the... Exactly, yeah. And you said you had no Docker experience. Well, you are a knack for it at least. Okay, so it should be Docker settings, directory name here. That should do it. Docker run build. Nice, let's try this again. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove anything we have here to make sure it actually gets a true full experience here. So we have this 2 months ago. Yeah, you think you're most great. So we have this local host here, and we want to make sure we remove this. So we'll do it cut end. We have the tag for 1, right? Can I remove this in a good way? So we can remove this container image. So now we have no Docker, like a localhost 5000. Let's try to run this again and see how this works. This is great. I think you know, we may actually solve the Docker build thing completely here. Now it's a matter of how do we inspect that we actually have built this one as well and pushed it to... This is called a local daemon, and then we figure out how to run this in a container and push it to a registry and log in. It's definitely a lot here. Okay. That's all good. Now it's going to build the image. So it's doing something here. And I was thinking as well, we can do as well is to pass, we can do this later, this is an improvement later. We can pass in a func as well to report back the status on these steps. But this actually was pretty quick. Once you're done it one time, it's quick to build a new one. So now we're going to try to push it. I'm not sure how that works honestly, but we'll see. It's doing something.
All right. I'll tell you the truth.
While that's doing that, let's look at the... Wow, it worked. Thanks, Brett. So we successfully... This is the images, and this is just the local... This is a local daemon, so it's not actually the registry itself here. But you can see that on our images locally, we were able to create one. We built one, we created one, which is fantastic. And it seems that we pushed as well, at least it didn't fail on the push. And eventually we can create a deployment. and now it kind of went away. But it, well, I have no search, so it's gonna pass. The question now is, were we able to get something here? Can I inspect my local one here or not? That's a question.
Very much alike.
Oh, here we go. Do we have use password? So I think this is our registry.
Remember all the happy times.
Look at that. So what is it saying us? Well, we've connected. So this is just our local images, right? This is our local daemon. So if you install Docker Desktop, you get all this. So you get the containers you can run in, and images, and all those things. And here is our registries. So you see, I have like an Azure registry here that we have to sign into, or you can if you want to. And I have a Docker Hub as well. So Docker Hub, this is my username, Aslotte. And we also have here the this current registry right here. And then we have the names of them. And you can see here that we created actually an image. It's called test, right? Because that's the experiment name. And it's the version. And it works. We didn't use any logins though, so that's the only thing. We need to make sure we can create that. So let's do a couple of notes here. Wow, it's big. So we need to figure out how to force login on the container registry. We need to figure out how to assert that an image was pushed, because right now we have no way to assert that. I'm sure there's a way of doing that. And we also need to let's see, what else we need to do here. Well, that's a good start, I think. Add unit integration test, of course. Okay, but that's really good information here. So let's look at the, okay, and add to the CI pipeline as well, of course. Add okay. So one of the things I'm wondering here is that currently we started without any password or username, which is great, but doesn't really help us test anything. So we need to be able to figure out how we can do that, and I'm sure we can do like an environment variable for that in some way here. Can we start this with a password and anything? Let's see. So password and username, local git Docker registry. Okay, I think we can probably just we could probably just pass it in. Can we just do that? Okay, so we can create our own file for this, but that's kind of not what I want to do. I just want to pass it in. Okay. Restricting assets. Okay, this is perfect. Password file with an entry for the password. Well, this is nice, but we don't really need it for our local testing here. But we could do the name here if you wanted to. Okay, well, I think that's going to be a bit tricky, but that's okay. Let's for now at least go ahead and create a branch for it and push the changes up here, so at least we have something stored here for this. So we have issue 303, right? But there's definitely lots of more to work on here. So issue 303. We've come pretty far, I think, though. It's pretty cool to see like how far we got here. So I'm happy with the progress, even though we're not completely there yet. It's definitely been a lot better than it would have been, I think. So we added this to the deployment catalog, we added this method, right? We added a CLI executor to run these different commands. Added a Docker context, and we have to figure these things out here. Different methods, exceptions. Okay. That's good. And we have yet to do the other tests here, but that's okay. Okay. Well, let's open up a PR for this at least, and then I think I'm gonna get some lunch here and think about this. But this is going to be probably what I will do today or tomorrow or this week at least, and continue working on. But we are definitely, let's see where to go. Definitely making headway on this one, which is really fun to see, and that's something that hopefully we can do. Creating. We'll just call it stats for now, that'd be good. And it's gonna be work in progress. At least we can see kind of what's going on here with the builds, and if anyone is curious, we can continue looking at that later. Nice, well, at least that's good. We got our stuff going here. Something else to check out, if you're interested as well, is looking at AJ's current PR. He's currently working on a .NET Global tool for the CLI, so we can do a lot of these things through command line as well, which I think is really cool. So if you want to kind of support him with that, you should definitely check that out as well. But yeah, great. I mean, we definitely come a long way. This is going to take a while to figure out. The cool thing here is that based on the type safety of the .NET, we can actually do a lot more cool stuff than we can do in Python. So some of the things that you may want to check out here if you're curious getting started on the library and help out is that we need the ability to record package dependencies when creating a run. So for example, like what are we going to, like someone may be using the fast tree library for training their model. So when we actually deploy our models container, right, we need to be able to install that dependency on that web app. But and that's going to be pretty quickly. I think we can like create a PowerShell script and pass in these dependencies that runs like .NET add package for all these things. But we need to store that. So we need a table to store these in, and we need a way of automatically running through all the assemblies in the app domain and recording all these dependencies for deployment. We'll also need some other things here. So for example, the schema generator here. We probably want to do that in reflection, but we probably want to have a separate method for that somewhere earlier to store input and output. And then of course we continue with other things here and things like that. But if you have any questions, you know, open up issues or just comment on them and I'll try my best to answer them. But I'm really excited about this deployment for containers, because I think if we get this right, this is going to be one of those things that will really make us stand out in the MLOps space. Because every time you deploy something in like scikit-learn, TensorFlow, you have to manually provide a lot of stuff. Like how does your schema look like, what are your dependencies, all those things, which is tedious honestly. but we have the chance here to kind of automate everything. So you just kind of do your run and then you just deploy it, and we will figure out everything for you, which I think will be very cool. And another thing that's really cool as well that I thought of this morning is that you know, .NET new templates is not only for .NET. We can actually create them for scikit-learn, or like for Python, sorry. So for example, we could have a .NET new template that generates a Flask API, so like a similar like for .NET, but an API for Python. And we could do all these things as well for Python. And since I think .NET 5 is going to start having Python interop, I think at least in a roadmap somewhere, there is a chance that we can, if we wanted to expand, we could expand to like the Python world as well for data science, for deployment scenarios, which I think would be really cool to take it there if need to be. But right now we're going to focus on ML.NET and make sure we get that right, because that's what we came out to do. Anyhow, a lot of talking. Thank you for sticking with me for 2 hours. It's been really fun. I'm really happy that we got so far and we got so many things done. Have a fantastic week, and I hope I will see you guys next Saturday. Or sorry, in 2 weeks, because I will be taking next weekend off. We have a long weekend and we'll be enjoying some free time. But I'll catch you on GitHub and I'll catch you on Twitter. Thanks guys. Bye.